with the topic that is haplodiplontic life cycle, which was left on that day. Now, haplodiplontic life cycle. As the name is saying, haplo means it provides a haploid phase. This is haplontic life cycle we have studied, the one in which the prominent phase is that of haploid phase, right? But here it is also accompanied with a haplo and diplontic. So this is haplodiplontic life cycle. Here the two phases are prominently present. That means the two phases that are the diploid phase as well as the haploid phase. Earlier we have studied the two phases, that is the haploid and the diploid phases, and accordingly if they were prominent enough, so we have named them as a haploid phase, haplontic life cycle, diploid prominent as a diplontic life cycle. But here the two are together prominent ones, right? But they are short-lived or dependingly they are long-lived or they are short-lived dependingly they happen there in the members that of the bryophytes or that of the pteridophytes. So example of the organisms where these are haplodiplontic life cycle is seen or it is studied, that is in the members of bryophytes and pteridophytes. Both of these shows the presence of this type of the life cycle, but the only concept is, the only difference is that which phase is long lived and which phase is short lived in the both, right? As we know that the sporophytic phase is short lived in this biophytes and the gametophytic phase is short lived in the pteridophytes, right? But it is alternated by the presence of both the sporophytic plant body as well as the gametophytic plant body. The two types of the plant bodies are together seen in the case of these two, you can say members, that is the bryophytes as well as pteridophytes. Okay, so now what? How to start this? Basically, this haplodiplontic life cycle. If the sporophyte is, because I'm saying that both are equally present, so you can start it from the sporophyte. You can start it from the gametophyte as well. So this is the sporophyte, which is, let's say the first plant body, which is a sporophyte. It is a diploid structure, 2n structure, right? So the sporophyte is a diploid structure, which is a 2n structure, right? Now it has to produce the gametophyte. Sporophyte has to alternate with the gametophyte. This is a gametophyte. This is also free living type of the plant body. So in the case when both the plant bodies are present, that is a sporophyte plant body is also present and a gametophyte plant body is also present. That means the intermediary stages that will lead to the formation of these members. Okay. So that is the sporophyte leading to the formation of the gametophyte further. Okay, so sporophyte, first of all, how this sporophyte will lead to the formation of a gametophyte? This is 2n and this is n. So it will undergo which type of division? That is meiosis, right? So undergoing the meiosis, initially, this results in the formation of the spores, which are called as the meiospores. After the resultant of the meiosis in the sporophyte, the spores will be produced and these spores they are called as the meiospores. Now the meiospores they are all haploid in nature. Why? Because of the reductional division which has taken place and that is meiosis. So meiospores they will be germinating further and they will be developing a new plant body that which is called as a gametophyte, right? They both are free living type of, that is they both are found as a plant body in the life cycle of the bryophytes and the pteridophytes. We have studied too much in details about these two existences, right? So this is after undergoing the developmental changes or the stages, they will be producing a new plant body and that is a gametophyte. Now the gametophyte is haploid, but in turn it has to produce a diploid feature, a diploid structure. What it will be going to do is, the gametophyte is going to produce the gametes. Now the gametes will be produced, the gametes from different origins, they will be fused together because we know that all the gametes universally are haploid. So from the haploid structure, the gametes are produced by which division? That is mitosis. It is an equational division. So the equational division resulting in the formation of the gametes, which are the haploid structures, and the haploid structures, these gametes, they will be undergoing the fusion now. And when they undergo the fusion, that is the fertilization or the fusion, let us join this arrow here over. So this is when they undergo the fusion or the fertilization. they lead to the further formation of a new structure, what we name it as a zygote. Okay, one second. So this is the formation of the zygote, that is a twin structure, diploid structure is created after the process of fusion or fertilization of the gametes. Clear? The zygote is now what? It is a two-end structure. And this two-end structure will finally be producing the sporophyte undergoing the developmental changes. Again the same, you can enlist the various changes in this development if you know about these changes of the bryophytes or the pteridophytes in details, right? Otherwise, it is okay to write the developmental changes from the zygote. Clear? So here if we see that this is a two-end phase, this is a two-end phase, until meiosis it was all two-end phase. So approximately, and before the formation of the gametes also, it was all two-end phase, right? After undergoing the fusion also, it was a two-end phase. So it is approximately half to half, you can say, is the life cycle which has been made as the sporophytic phase as well as gametophytic phase. So this is the sporophytic phase. The upper half represents the 2N phase and the lower half represents the gametophytic phase, which is a N phase or a haploid phase. So when the two together, that is the haploid as well as the diploid, the two together phases are equally involved, right? They are equally involved. Then we say, or we can say like they are both present. The plant bodies are both present, that for a sporophyte as well as for a gametophyte. Then we say that this is the example of the haplodiplontic life cycle. Clear? Haplodiplontic life cycle. So sporophyte plant body is also existable and the gametophyte plant body is also existing here in this case, right? For the bryophytes, we know that there is a dominant phase, that of the gametophyte. But for the pteridophytes, the dominating or the more major phase which is seen more long-lived is the sporophyte. And in the bryophytes, the sporophyte is short-lived, right? So dependingly, they are different, but otherwise they show the presence or the formation of both the sporophyte as well as a gametophyte. I take an example of the Merkensia, in which the sporophytic plant body is different from a gametophytic plant body. We have seen that Merkensia is a bryophyte, and in this there is a thelloid plant body. We have also seen that therefore the male and the female reproductive organs, they are represented over a stalk. If it is an inverted umbrella-like structure, this is a female, that is archegonium. And if it is a male, then it will be forming the stalk-like structure is there, and there is an expanded disc over it, that which produces the male gametes. So the two male and the female reproductive organs are different. But when these male gametes produce, they will be undergoing the fusion with the female gametes produced. Then there will be the presence of another structure which won't be like the same. That is, it won't be looking like the female gametophyte like. It will be now a simple stalk-like structure, a small heighted. This is the stalk-like structure. This is it. It is neither having the expanded disc-like structure or an umbrella-shaped structure. This is only having a stalk-like structure, like this. It's just a small stalk which arises over the surface of the this Merkensia thallus. And this within it carries the spores. This is a sporophyte. Initially, it was a gametophyte. This is now a sporophyte. This was supposed to produce the gametes, and this is now to produce the spores. So this is supposed to produce the spores. So this plant body, which is having this different kind of this, you can say stalk-like structure, this is termed as a sporophyte, and this here is termed as a gametophyte. Clear? So the two plant bodies existing in a life cycle, they are different looking. So that is why we have named them as a haplodiplontic life cycle. Clear? So this is the features. Also, there is one more feature, that this haplodiplontic life cycle is not just seen in the bryophytes and the pteridophytes. It is also seen in some of the members of the algae, right? There are some members of the algae that which are showing this type of the haplodiplontic life cycle. You can write down the examples from the algae group, and they are Ectocarpus, There is ectocarpus and Polysiphonia along with kelps. That's a category of the organisms. Polysiphonia and ectocarpus are the individual organisms that which shows the haplodiplontic type of the life cycle. Whereas fucus is the one that from the algae, fucus is the one that which shows the diplontic life cycle because it is diploid, right? The fucus member is diploid, so it shows the diplontic life cycle, and these two shows the haplodiplontic life cycle. Clear? So this is about the this chapter, that is the kingdom Plantae chapter. So it is all done. It is all finished. Now we'll be proceeding with the next chapter. But any doubts, any questions to anyone from this particular chapter, if you have, you can ask me, please. Okay, so this is the chapter number 7 of your NCERT books. That is the structural organization in animals. Structural organization in animals. The name itself says that we are to deal about the organization of the structure in the case of the animals. We all know that the living organisms, they have shown the cellular levels of organization. For organization, whenever we come to in this concept, we always say that there is a cellular levels of organization which are responsible for all the living organisms for their structure as well as their functions. That is their physiology, right? So what are the cellular levels of organizations? Starting with the cellular levels of organization, that which you have already studied, the cellular levels of organization. What are those? Starting from the very first, that is a cell. The cell complexes, that is, there is a single unit which is called as a cell. The cell, these are the cellular levels of organization, okay, starting from the cell. But if we say the biomolecular level of organization, then it starts from the biomolecule. As we all know that the cell is also made from the biomolecules, right? The molecules which are involved in the formation of the cell and its components. They are called as a biomolecules, okay? The cluster of the cells that can be similar or dissimilar cells that forms the tissues. Here in this chapter, we are only depending upon the tissues, right? So the cell that complexes out and that forms a cluster, which is called as a tissue, right? After this, the tissues, they complex and they form, that is, they are organized to form an organ. There are number of organs that which are linked together, forming a connection and forming the same function. So that is, they are forming the organ system, and this organ systems, collection of the organ systems performing different functions in the single organism's body, that compiles up to the organism. So that is what we say, that these are the cellular levels of organizations. The organization from the cell and ending up to the organism, how the organisms, that is the animals or the plants or any living organism, how they are made. Because we are here in this chapter depending upon only the animals. So that means for the animals, which are the complex organisms, all these levels are also present. But over here, from your NCERT deleted syllabus, according to that, we are only concerned with the tissues part, right? We are not going to study about the organism like that of the cockroach or the earthworms. Uh, there was only cockroach till the last session. It was only the cockroach which was there in the syllabus. Others have been already deleted, earthworm and the frog. But now for this time, the cockroach is also deleted. Okay, so we are only depending on the tissues topic from this particular chapter. You are to only read about the tissues chapter, tissues topic from this chapter. Okay, that which we have already studied in the lower classes. So that's just a recapitulation type of the topic from there only. So I'm starting with the tissues now. Tissues, we have already studied the 4 types of animal tissues from the chapter tissues of ninth class, if you remember. So this is, we are also starting with the same. The first category of the animal tissues. So this is the animal tissues. The first category of the animal tissues is the epithelial tissues. The epithelial tissues, they are also called as the lining tissues. Lining means that is they are involved in the lining of the various organisms. They are involved in the lining of the various organs. Okay, so these tissue layers, they are almost found in the organs linings. Okay, that is they are providing the inner lining or the outer lining, that of the epithelium only to the various organs. So accordingly, these are of two types depending upon their complexity. These are of two types, the types of the epithelial tissue, that are the simple epithelium and the complex epithelium. Simple epithelium and complex epithelium. Now, what is this simple and the complex epithelium? The simple epithelium, that in which the tissue layer is just a single one, right? So the simple epithelium is composed of a single layer of the cells, that which comprises a single layer, a single sheet of the that particular tissue will be found in only a single sheet form, right? So this is a single layer of the cells. If arranged, we call it as a simple epithelium. And if it is clustered one above the another, we can say, if it is composed in such a manner that it is arranged one above the another is the layer of the cells, layering of cells is found, you can say the layers of the cells are compiled together. So then we call it as a complex epithelium. We have already studied this complex epithelium as the layers of the cells are found in the case of the skin, where the tissue we call it as a squamous epithelium, that is a stratified squamous epithelium, right? So this is stratified. Term stratified itself means that when the layers are arranged one above the other, okay, stratification. Or the stratified squamous epithelium was the one which is found in the complex epithelium in the skin as a complex epithelium. So stratified squamous epithelium, right? Coming to the simple epithelium, which are found as in the single layer of the cells, there are different types of the simple epithelium, and we have to study these simple epithelium types. So initially, there are three types of the simple epithelium. They are squamous epithelium, then there is cuboidal epithelium, and columnar epithelium. The variations of the presence of the glands and the cilia, that is further a part of, or you can say this is further a condition of the both columnar as well as cuboidal type of the tissues, right? So initially we have to study these type of the epithelial tissues, that is the simple epithelium, squamous, cuboidal and columnar. So starting with the very first, that is the squamous epithelial tissue. The first category of the epithelium, squamous epithelium. As the name is saying, these are simple epithelium tissues, squamous epithelium tissue. This is a simple type of the epithelium. So it will be found in the single layer, right? And these are single thin layer. This is a very thin layer of the cells which are also flattened, square shaped or flattened with the irregular boundaries. Okay, so you can write their features along with. So these are this is present in a single layer. Number one, they are found in the single layer because they are the simple epithelium. Secondly, they are made up of the thin layer of flattened cells. This is a thin layer of flattened cells, right? And thirdly, these are having the irregular boundaries. The boundaries, they are irregular ones. Clear? If we see a sheet of this squamous epithelium, that is from the above, if we see this sheet, then this will be something like, I'm just making it a rough sketch of it, like this, right? And the layer which will be found towards the side, that will be all irregularly placed, right? So this is the irregular arrangement of the cells like this, okay? Irregularly placed, having the irregular boundaries like this, clear? They are not having any fixed shapes like polygons and all. They are having irregular boundaries, means they are not providing the fixed shapes like this. Okay. And from the above also, the boundaries which are visible, they are also irregular like this. So you can see it from the above. If you are looking it from the above, then they are all showing the presence of irregular boundaries. The cells that are arranged, forming a thin flattened layer, not to make these very broad ones, okay? Just make it a thin layer, which seems to be that of the flattened cells, okay? It should look like a thin layer. So similarly covering all the surface here. So this is all the squamous epithelial tissues. From the above side, they are all giving the irregular arrangement. And from the side, if you see the cells, they are also more or less squarish, but with irregular boundaries. Okay. So this is a squamous epithelial tissue. Where it is found, the location is also very important. These are found in the walls of location. You can write here as a subheading. That is the location. It is very important to write the location of these tissues. So it is found in the walls of the blood vessels. Number one, in the walls of blood vessels. Also, they are found in the air sac or the alveoli of the lungs. Air sac or alveoli of lungs. Fine. So this is a squamous epithelial tissue. Clear? Only this much details is more than enough. That is required according to your NCERTs also. So you have to study your NCERT thoroughly for this chapter again, right? So this was squamous epithelial tissue. Coming to the second type of the tissue, that is a cuboidal epithelium or the cuboidal epithelial tissue. So the second one is cuboidal epithelial tissue. As the name is saying, cuboidal. The cells of this category, they are cube shaped. That is, they are also forming the single layer, that because they are formed of the simple epithelium. They are a category of the simple epithelium, but these are having the special, you can say, structure, as they are having their, or they comprises of the cells which are cube-like. Cube means three-dimensionally square type. Okay, so cube-like structure of the cells is there. As we have written for the squamous epithelium, they are having the thin and flattened cells which are more or less squarish, right? So here it is comprised of, or it is composed of cells which are cube shaped. Okay? So cube shaped cells, that which makes the layer of cuboidal epithelial tissue, right? These cells, they are also found in the nephrons of the kidneys. They are found in the tubular parts, basically. The cuboidal epithelial tissue, they are found in the tubular parts of the nephron and also in the ducts of the gland. So you can write down the location for these. Location says that these cells are found in the tubular parts of kidneys. They are found in the tubular parts of the kidneys. Also, they are found in the ducts of the glands. So usually they are found in the duct-like structures, tube-like structures. Okay. Coming to the structural diagram for the cuboidal epithelial tissue. As the name is saying, cuboidal, so cube shape. Also, the animal tissues, they are found over the basement membrane, right? So these are found over the basement membrane. The basement membrane itself has a connection of the blood vessels and many other components that which runs across all the tissues, right? So this is the cube shape. So cube shape, that means it is giving the squarish look from the front, but otherwise it is three-dimensionally cube. Okay. So when you are making it, you have to also provided a rounded upper lining as a rounded one, not appropriately rounded, मतलब पूरी proper curve नहीं करनी है, and it should be as wide as it is long, and the cells should also be comparatively bigger ones as compared to that of the squamous epithelium. The cells should be bigger ones. The nucleus is also very prominent here, that is, it has a big nucleus. Also the cytoplasm, which is found inside the cells. So to label these structures, you can also write the structure labeling for the tissues. This is the membrane, that is the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. As we know, for the animal cells or the tissues, there is no wall present outside it. Cell membrane is there only as a covering. Then there is the cytoplasm. This is also cell. Then there is cytoplasm, the nucleus, and over which it is found is a basement membrane. It can be any membrane. I'm telling you, basement membrane can be any membrane, any other tissue. It can be a tissue lining of any other kind, right? So it is a basement membrane, but it has the full connection, or the, you can say, rich supply of the blood vessels to this membrane. That is a basement membrane. So that each and every cell of the body that gets to have the this nourishment from the blood cells, right? Coming to the next is the third type, that is a columnar epithelium. Columnar, as the name is now saying, column shaped, right? So the third is columnar epithelial tissues. For this, the shape of the cells is column shape. Again, it forms a single layer. So you can write the single layer feature in every one, right? Here in every kind, you have to write this single layer feature. You can also write it here over the cuboidal epithelium. Okay, so it was cube shaped. Sorry, I missed it. Hanji. Columnar epithelium is also single layer because it is of a kind of simple epithelium. So it is arranged in a single layer. But the cells here, they are, what is the shape of these? Column shapes. Okay. So columnar cells are column shaped. Column shaped. What do you understand by the column shape? Column means it is more long than wide. Okay, having more length than its width, that we call it as a column shape. We'll be drawing the diagram and you'll be clearing it more, right? Here is also the feature of the nucleus. The nuclei, they are also extended ones, right? Nuclei are elongated, and especially they are present or located near the base. Okay, so nuclei are elongated and arranged near the base. These features will be showing in the diagram, arranged near the base of the cell. Okay, so making the diagram first, then I'll be writing the location also. First you write down the location itself. The location of this columnar epithelium, these are found especially in the stomach as a lining, or they are also found in the intestine. So this is the stomach and intestine, where they are found. Okay, coming to the diagrammatic part of this columnar epithelium now. The diagrammatic part, again, it starts with the base, that is the basement membrane. Okay, so this is the basement membrane that can be again of any tissue, and it has a good supply of the blood vessels. Clear? The cells are more long than wide. So these are the long cells. Than they are wide, they are more long than wide. So length is more and the width is less. So this is it. This is the structure feature, right? Having more of the length and less of the width. Okay, then after this, the nucleus, they will be elongated ones. The nuclei are elongated and present near the base as well as near the boundary walls. Okay, so the nucleus, you have to make it like this, stretched ones, right? They should be near the boundary walls, that is side walls, also near the base. We are not supposed to make it here somewhere. Okay, you can't make it here, right? Because this is the center and also towards the upper surface. This is wrong. Okay, so make it somewhere near the base and along the side walls. It is found along the side walls, right? Any side you can make it, and then the labeling will remain the same. It can be in the less than middle part also, but not near to the top level. That is near to the surface, it won't be there, right? So like this, the nucleus is extended. It is elongated or extended because the cells are also elongated, more long and less wide, right? Having the cytoplasm. Now the structural features of this columnar and the cuboidal that may vary with the presence of the cilia over it, also with the glands in it associated with the cuboidal as well as columnar. The two types of the cells, that is the cuboidal as well as columnar, they, if having the cilia, that is the hairy projections over the surface, they will be called as ciliated epithelium. That is the fourth category. We call it as a fourth category of the epithelial tissues, simple epithelium ki fourth category. And if they are having the glands also, then they are called as glandular epithelium. That will be the fifth category. So we'll be doing that fifth and the fourth category with regard to the columnar and cuboidal epithelium only. Okay. So this is the structure, and label it as the cell membrane. Again the same. This is the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. Labeling is same in all the tissues except one where there will be the glands formation. This is the nucleus, then the cytoplasm and the basement membrane. So this is a basement membrane, right? So this is about the columnar epithelial tissues. Fine. Your time is just going to be over right now. If you have any queries, you can ask me, please.